Being nice is beautiful, but being too nice can slowly, quietly, and invisibly dismantle you. Most people who give too much don't realize it's happening, because it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small moments, little compromises, little silences, little emotional withdrawals. At first you think, it's fine, it's not worth the fight, I can handle it. But these little pieces you give away, they add up. You start losing energy, then identity, then joy. Then, inwardly, you begin to feel a kind of emotional thinning, like your spirit is stretched too far. And through it all, you still call it kindness. But the truth is deeper. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Many people who are too nice aren't choosing kindness. They're replaying old emotional patterns rooted in fear or survival or childhood roles. Today, we explore those patterns, not to shame you, but to help you see yourself more clearly and with compassion. Because awareness is how you reclaim your power. Let's begin. You don't just apologize for mistakes. You apologize for inconveniences, for misunderstandings, for things out of your control, for simply taking up space. And maybe you've never noticed how quickly that sorry leaves your mouth. It's automatic, instant, reflexive. But beneath that reflex is a story that you learned somewhere in your past, that your presence might burden someone, that your feelings might trouble them, that your needs might upset them. So you learn to stay small, to stay soft, to stay quiet, to keep the peace at any cost. And that conditioning doesn't vanish with age. It becomes your default. The world doesn't see this. They see politeness. They see grace. But inside, you feel something else. A subtle shrinking, a fading of self-worth, a deep sense that you must earn every breath of belonging. You deserve more than that, and you always have. Your kindness is beautiful, but it's costly. You pour into others without limit. You listen when you're tired. You help when you're overwhelmed. You show up even when your own heart is breaking. And you rarely ask for anything in return. Not because you don't need support, but because you don't want to be a burden. So you hide your exhaustion behind a smile. You hide your sadness behind compassion. You hide your loneliness behind being the strong one. But overgiving isn't generosity. It's self-neglect. And it slowly drains you, emotionally, physically, spiritually. You weren't meant to be everyone's emotional battery. You deserve reciprocity. You deserve care. You deserve balance. This is where healing begins, with acknowledging that your energy is not infinite, and you do not exist solely to keep others comfortable. If any part of this is resonating with you, if you feel seen, if you feel understood, consider subscribing so these messages can find you exactly when you need them most. You put up with things others would never allow. Unkindness, inconsistency, broken promises, emotional neglect. You tell yourself, it's not a big deal. Everyone has flaws. I'll be patient. And while compassion is admirable, over-tolerance is damaging. When you absorb too much pain, you start to normalize it. You start to question your own reactions. You start making excuses for behavior that should never require excuses. You tell yourself you're loyal, but deep down, you're afraid to lose someone, afraid to disrupt the fragile peace, afraid to stand up for yourself because you're not used to being defended. This is how self-abandonment begins. Not loudly, but slowly and quietly through the things you let slide. This one is subtle and painful. You don't feel valuable unless you're helping. You don't feel chosen unless you're saving someone. You don't feel loved unless you're useful. At first, it feels like connection, like purpose, like importance. But over time, you realize something. Being needed drains you. Being loved nourishes you, and they are not the same. You are not a tool. You are not a resource. You are not a background character in other people's stories. Your worth isn't measured by how much you fix, or how much you sacrifice, or how much you endure. You deserve love that sees you, not just your usefulness. People think you're strong because they never see you crumble. They see your calm, your patience, your understanding, your emotional steadiness. But they don't see the nights you stay up overthinking. They don't see the moments you feel invisible. They don't see the weight you carry in your chest that you never speak out loud. Nice people hurt deeply. They just hurt privately. You suppress your needs because expressing them feels unfamiliar, uncomfortable, wrong. Your silence becomes a shield, but it also becomes a cage. You deserve to be heard. You deserve to be supported. You deserve to fall apart without apologizing for it. Your anger doesn't disappear. It morphs. It becomes tension, exhaustion, discomfort, self-doubt. You feel it in your shoulders, in your stomach, in your chest, because you were taught that anger is dangerous, that expressing it risks rejection, that showing it means losing love. So you bury it deep, where no one can see it, not even you. But anger is not your enemy. It's a message. It's a boundary alarm. It's your spirit saying, this is not okay. You deserve to listen to that voice, not silence it. Some people give, some people take. And when you give unconditionally, takers recognize you instantly. They gravitate toward the softness in you, the empathy, the willingness to understand. But kindness without boundaries is a magnet for those who lack them. You're not attracting the wrong people because you're weak. You're attracting them because you've never been taught how to protect yourself. Your heart is open, but your guard is missing. And that's what needs healing. Not your kindness. Never your kindness. You manage other people's moods, their reactions, their feelings, their disappointments. You soften your truth to keep them comfortable. You prioritize their needs over your peace. You feel guilty for setting the smallest boundary, but you are not responsible for the emotional weather of others. You're allowed to let people feel what they feel. Life becomes lighter when you stop trying to carry storms that were never yours. This is the quietest wound, the hardest to notice, the deepest to heal. When you're too nice for too long, you begin to forget who you are. What do you want? What do you need? What do you dream of? These questions feel distant, not because you don't care, but because you've spent so long caring for others that you built your identity around their comfort. But your soul is still there, waiting, wanting. And the fact that you're listening to this means a part of you is waking up. You're not too nice. You're someone who needed to survive. Someone who learned to keep the peace even when it cost you your own peace. But your story doesn't end in self-sacrifice. It begins in self-recognition, self-respect, self-worth. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be loving and still say no. You can be soft and still be powerful. Tell me in the comments, which part of this spoke to you the most? Your healing is already beginning. Let's walk it together.